Whenever you're ready.
Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chad, can you please do the roll call?
Supervisor Craig. Supervisor Thorne.
Here.
Chairman Shaler.
Here.
Supervisor Bromer. Here. And Supervisor Wolford is excused.
First item on the agenda would be citizens' concerns. Anyone here wishes to address the town board? Can I get a motion to go into public comment?
So moved.
I'll second that. Motion by Ralph, second by Terry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Who wants to start?
I'll start. Kelsey Craig, 2500 First Avenue East. I want to thank Jeff Bellamy for helping me in July sell some old park equipment from 2nd Avenue. We sold it to 2 residents here on the island. We had an auction and Jeff did all the hard work for me. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, John. Anybody else? Go ahead, Brian.
I would like to bring up something regarding Catgut Slough.
Can you give your name?
My name is Terry Larson, and
Your address, please?
Pardon?
Your address?
I live in 14 South Bainbridge. So the reason I just want to address the group here tonight is I've lived there for 20 years, and I've slowly watched the bay there being closed off due to filling in without permits. The parking lot that was extended out without a permit, and I fought that, but I didn't get anywhere. And now we're seeing dirt being moved over along the channel. So when the water's low, you can almost walk over to the boat club, and that's going to continue. We're starting to see lily pads forming in the bay. We have low oxygen content there. Eventually that will shut down. Not tomorrow, not next year, the year after that, but eventually that's a dead body of water. And what we're seeing in there now is just basically garfish. That's the first sign. A lot of lily pads. What we've done is we put aerators in there, thanks to the boat club, and that's kept the bay somewhat alive. But if it continues, what we're going to see is we're going to see that area turn into nothing but lily pads, and it's going to be a mosquito-infested swamp. So what I would like to just address everybody here is to form a group to approach the Corps of Engineers of Minneapolis, not here, but Minneapolis. I put in other words, a signed petition together a number of years ago, and I approached them. We came very close to having that whole area dredged out and used for fill south of there when they built the boat club and in the Huck Finn area, but the sediment wasn't the right type. But the Corps does have discretionary funds. So if we get in and as a group, rather than one person approach them, I think that'll carry a little weight. And I'd like to maybe after the meeting get together with anybody who would like to approach this. I have some contacts in Madison. I have some contacts up in Minneapolis. But I'd like to see some other people maybe join in an effort to get this done. Otherwise, we're going to wind up with a swamp there as you come across on the left-hand side.
Thank you. Next. Go ahead, Joanne.
Joanne Schaller, 2312 Bainbridge Street. I'd like to find out the status of the stop sign out there.
I noticed they trimmed some stuff up. Other than that, I have no changes for you. But it looks like you can see the sign a lot better now.
It's still not helping.
People not stopping?
No,
Okay.
the semis are not stopping. The delivery cars that go over to the Days Inn, the delivery trucks, the people staying at the Days Inn, none of them are stopping.
Okay.
I'm sure Mr. Winkler can verify it too.
Yeah,
He
no.
walks north them.
I believe you.
It's terrible. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse.
Okay.
And then I would also like to address you. Is there anything you can do about this truck sitting over here for a week straight selling food out of it on the north side of Olivet Street? I've got Fathead Steve's sandwich truck or whatever he sells out of there. No. He was parked on the north side where it says no parking this side of the street. And even one of your officers was over there parked in front of his truck buying sandwiches from him. And then there was a long line of traffic behind him.
Oh my God.
I've got the pictures right here.
If he's illegally parked, we can deal with it. If it's not causing a traffic hazard, then I'm not. My office wants to go to the truck.
Well, I don't care about him buying a sandwich, but when he's parked on the side that says no parking this side of the
It
street.
gets to it. If he's illegally parked, we can address it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Debbie Seiler, 2618 Del Rey. I'm wondering what's going on with Lake Del Rey. We did have a meeting in June with Davey and we heard some ideas, but I know there's been other things that I've brought up and looked at, but I haven't heard anything more.
I met with Kevin last week just a little bit, and we chatted some more about the solution we're looking at. The stuff we talked about in July, all of it is obviously very expensive, even the cheap route. So we're looking for something cheaper that's going to fix it. And I have an idea, but it's moving really slow. So give me another month, and I'm going to have information for you next month.
I'll hold you to it.
All right.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff Bellamy, 1503 Caroline Street. I see a lot of times the town of Campbell must be getting fire calls, but yet the city of La Crosse is responding to them. And to me, from what I hear, 3-4 pages go out before the city of La Crosse gets sent over. Can there be something addressed to that, especially when you want a new fire truck? The taxpayers, I think, are spending money for a fire truck that it shouldn't even be needed. Maybe we should contract out with Onalaska, maybe we'd get a better service.
Is that Jeff?
That's it.
Thanks. I got something real quick. The pedestrian overpass, the DOT has pushed it back to 2025. Obligated in 24, construction in 25. We have a Lake Onalaska Protection and Rehabilitation District meeting, 6:45, over at the Upper Midwest Environmental Science Center, 2630 Fanna Reed Road. Anybody wants to go? There was a meeting at the Onalaska City Hall about fire department's meeting, and not too many people showed. Joe Chilson, myself, Raleigh from Onalaska, Town of Onalaska, Scott from the administrator from Holman. More or less all they talked about was mutual aid and Navis cards being updated. I recommended, like Joe Chilson, to go to one of the monthly fire chief meetings. He probably learned a lot. There was no talk about a regional fire. So, thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, Chad, we talked before about that agenda for the closed session meeting. You got any legitimate reason why it wasn't posted?
It was posted on the website and at the town hall.
But all the other agendas for all the years that you've been here, it's also been posted publicly at Quillens and Quick Trip, and it wasn't down here.
It was posted publicly on the website and at the town hall.
Sounds like a broken record. Why wasn't it posted at Quillens and...
It met the statutory requirements for the postings. It was a closed session for interviews, Bruce.
Well, yeah, that's fine, but, I mean, people like to know whether it's a closed session or open session. You know, why aren't the agendas posted there like they are every other meeting?
I don't have an answer for you. Statutorily, the requirement was met.
Well, I don't think it's a funny thing, Chad. Hopefully it won't happen again.
I'll take it under advisement, I guess.
It would be a good thing.
Anything else, Bruce?
Yeah, Ralph, that block that they paved down there on Crescent Street,
Mm-hmm.
did you look at that at all? Or?
No, I haven't been down.
Looks to me like when they put the blacktop down, it was kind of cold.
Okay.
The job didn't turn out very good.
Okay. I'll stop down and look at it. I haven't had a chance to. I appreciate you letting me know.
Are the alleys going to be looked after this summer?
I am going to try to again, like last year. I think we did one or two. So yeah, I haven't picked out which one. We're in a cycle. We can't do them all each year. Obviously, the town's not required to do any of them, but it's important to keep them up. A lot of people live in them.
Yeah, the town is supposed to keep up alleys just like we are streets because the town owns them.
Okay. At any rate, we will be looking at which one we're going to get done yet this year. Haven't done it yet, but I do plan on doing some.
Anything else, Bruce?
That's it for
Oh,
now.
anybody else? Go ahead.
What day is that meeting you were talking about?
It's a Wednesday, September 5th, 6:45.
Thanks.
2630 Fanner Reed, and as I say, the fish lab. Anybody else? Go ahead, Lee.
Ralph, how much more patching do we have to do on the streets?
As far as
As far as not making them crack?
you mean to get everything fixed?
To
or-
get everything, yes, so that way when people are driving, they're not having to replace their front ends.
We got a lot of work to do. Yeah, no doubt about it. I know we have made it the whole way through the island. We got all the potholes filled at one point this year. If there's more coming loose again, we can definitely try it out.
The reason I ask is because in front of my dad's house over on Bainbridge, the opposite side you guys pulled, you cut that all out.
Mhm.
He had his knee replaced a month ago, and then when he was going in and out of his driveway, there were big giant holes. So he went to a maintenance guy and asked, "Hey, I'm laid up for a little bit. Is there any way you guys can come over here and look at this?" And the maintenance guy goes, "I don't know. We'll have to find time to come over and look at this."
Okay.
So he went over to Menards and went and picked up 200 pounds of patch filler and did it himself while he was in a walker. So we appreciate if we could go through and do some more quicker.
I will look at that particular area. I did the same thing with my driveway out to Menards, but I'm not in a walker. So no, we'll look at it. I know we don't have any coal pads right now, but maybe we need to get some more for the end of the year. So
Well, how much more time do
what's
we
the
have?
address there?
2556 Bainbridge. How much time do we have left before we can't do stuff on the roads?
And I can't even answer that question, to be honest with you. Steve, coal patch,
That particular road's gonna get double sealed next week.
yeah.
It's gonna be the best we can do.
We're gonna chip the seal
Those
all
spots
around.
out there are sinking. They've been sinking for years. So
Like actual right by the same address, or
yeah, right across the street from where you guys cut that piece
Okay.
up of blacktop.
that's where it's sinking down?
Yep.
Okay. We'll look. We're
Okay.
supposed to do stuff next week with it, so,
All right.
yeah. Thank you.
And I realize this is going to sound really weird, but I have a couple questions for Bob. So now that he's not here, and however long he's not going to be here, when do you plan on coming back? Are you going to donate this money again, or put quotes around donate the money back to the town for the time that you're not here? And where are we at on finishing up on these sewer projects, or what we were supposed to be done by the end of this year? Because I know there are some bigger ones. I'm not crazy, I swear. No, now that my crazy came out, I'm done.
Got anything else, Lee?
Nope.
Lee, do you think you could go to this meeting for us to represent the town?
That Upper Mississippi, that,
Yeah.
yeah, what was the date again?
Wednesday, September 5th, 6:45. You went before, didn't you, when you were on the board?
I've been going for the past 5 years now.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Bruce.
One more question, Ralph. For this grant money coming, you have project prioritized down there, and which one's gonna be first, second?
Yeah, we've got a pretty good idea of what we're gonna be doing there.
You know which one is gonna be first and second right offhand?
Well, I mean, what road we're gonna actually tear up at the, no, I don't know that yet. We'll be figuring that all out in the next few months. But if you wanna be part of that committee, you're more than welcome to be.
That's all.
Thanks, Bruce. Anybody else? I get a motion to call public comment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mitch, second by Ralph. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's go down the consent agenda. Items A through C. If there's no action taken on the consent agenda, I just have one quick question. Here's one here for Badam Pala, and it's on street and roads, is that right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Don't really have a separate line item right now for the blue one.
Okay.
So,
so, can I get a motion then to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Accept the consent agenda.
I got a motion by Mitch and a second by Kelsey. Any discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Let's move down to business 5A. Linda Green, 2902 Youngdale Avenue, permission for a band to play outside the community center on September 15th, 2018. Chad?
Is Linda here?
Right here.
Oh. Yeah, you contacted me about a month ago asking for permission to do outdoor band at a community center. I forget what the event is.
Our anniversary party.
So just like anything, basically be violation probably of any noise ordinances, so be board approval.
Time are you shutting it down?
It'll probably be done by 8 o'clock. We're actually done, our invitation states from 2 to 7, but I'm just saying if it goes a little bit over, but it's not gonna be anything late at all.
Okay.
What type of music? Is it
It's just a small
acoustic
band,
or?
small band, 60s, 70s stuff. I mean, it's not a real loud band, they've got an accordion player, so. Nothing. It just doesn't get that loud.
I'll motion to approve Linda Green permission to have a band play outside.
I'll second. Jen? Okay. I have a motion by Kelsey, second by Ralph. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
5B, Steve Earp, 1212 Bainbridge Street, request for annual burn permit.
There's Steve.
Jerry's too big.
Yeah.
1212 Bainbridge, Steve Earp, and 1210 Bainbridge, Larry Bjorkus is my neighbor. And if you want to kill two birds with one stone, we're just looking at, we got such big trees, and we're not getting any younger, and it's nice to, we have burning permits for our cooking fires when we do that down there, but it'd be nice to, we had two times where we had floods come in the yards this spring, and it always leaves trash and brush and stuff, and it'd just be nice to be able to burn, take care of that stuff in our burning permits. And I talked to Larry, and he's my next door neighbor, and he has the same problem. And we're just requesting that we could get rid of that stuff instead of, because if we have to haul it all the way up the street, that's a half block away because we've got long, and we're right on the bay there. So just asking if we could do that.
So usually when the board approves something like that, it has a start and an end date, and then whoever has the permit has to notify dispatch before they start it, and it has to be safe conditions.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Is that a one-time thing a year, or can we do it more than one time?
Our past precedent has been the one-time burn, so you have to kind of plan accordingly to the weather, because once it's issued for 5 days, and you have to get it done within that period of time, because we don't issue a second one throughout the year.
So if we would have to get bad weather, we're out of luck.
Yeah, pretty much. You'll have to look at your weather reports.
So if we approve it today, though, they can wait until the weather looks good to get it.
Yes, absolutely.
So that if you look out ahead, so we can.
Well, so we can do it within a week. I mean.
Yeah, you just come in, if you're planning September, just make sure you're looking at your September weather report and pull the permit for a specific time period, but you only get the one. And like Chief said, you notify dispatch because the police and the fire, they get a copy of the permit.
Because we used to do that before this all came together. We used to call the county dispatch and let them know what we were doing. That's not a problem at all.
Past practice from the board has always been Shoreland has always gotten the one-time burn for shoreland debris, but
The only other question would be, since Larry and I are next door neighbors. Should we alternate those? I just want to use the system if I can.
Can I get a motion?
Larry, maybe Larry's got something to add.
Well, one time a year to burn, quite a bit of stuff that accumulates down there. So I don't know if that would do me much good or not.
That's what I was just saying. If the two of us could have, alternated, so we had
It's not
two
to have
of
a big fire, it's with a dozen trees down there, you get the small limbs that come off that are too small to haul up to put in a chipper. Because I don't think the maintenance people want to be picking up short sticks and trying to feed into the chipper, and every time you get a strong rain or a windstorm, you get that all over your yard, and it's hard to, know what to do with it. Other than I got, a regular fire pit with cement sides on it, to throw it in there if that's, a small fire like that, you consider it a cooking fire or not.
Well, the definition for cooking fire is clean, dry wood, so.
Right, and that's basically what I do, is leave it till it's totally dry.
I mean, my personal feeling on it, I mean, if you guys collaborate, it's not like we're gonna send anybody out to monitor it, I guess. I mean,
If you guys burn and you're in the same lot, so you're gonna have one pit kind of.
No, I've got
You got
a nice brick pit, and he's got one too. And the lights run together.
So let's just say you each got approved, and one week, one of you were gonna do it in the one pit, but in the next week, are you gonna do it in the next, you know what I mean, to say.
Or I did it in the fall, and he did it in the spring. I mean, if we could get two out of it, that would help. But
to do the spring, you don't.
it is kind of a hassle when you get a little bit of brush.
I mean, the best we can do is just approve each one.
Yeah.
And you guys would have to decide when you want to get your permits.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if Steve wants to drag some wood across his yard over to the neighbor's house, maybe that's.
That's kind of what I'm saying. I'll take whatever we can get because it's just I've got stuff from the flood that we had earlier this spring, and it'd be nice just to get rid of it. It's not that much.
Can I get a motion then?
I'll move to approve it.
I'll second that. I have a motion by Ralph and a second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We move down to 5C. Larry Burkos, 1210 Bainbridge Street, request for annual burn permit. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second that. I got a motion by Mitch, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Move down to 5.
Real quick, Chairman.
Yeah.
So again, just to clarify, make sure you do have to stop in here first before you do any burning, so we can issue the permit and notify the correct authorities. So.
So do you want to burn this fall, or you want me to?
Well, you could do 2 this fall if you need to. So.
There you go.
5D, acceptance of the CDBG grant award letter. Russ, you want to start with?
Yes, first of all, congratulations on your CDBG award, an amount of $500,000. Turned out very well. You can see that your efforts and Cedar Corp's efforts in putting together the grant application turned out to be very positive. Ralph and Terry and their spouses and Steve and other staff who helped us with the door-to-door survey. It was very positive, so congratulations. With that, I'll turn it over to Lynn, but this item is the first item that's required as part of the grant award is for the town to accept the grant, which will then start the process for the administration and engineering and design. If you have anything else to add regarding the award, or if the board has any questions regarding the grant award letter?
The only question I got is, do we need this procurement policy, or Chad says we really don't need that.
Well, in regards to the procurement policy, I did contact the state in regards to that. And they said as long as you are complying with state and federal regulations regarding procurement, they're okay with that. You guys are one of the communities one of the few that do not have a procurement policy. So in the future, if you're going to go for the grants, I would maybe consider it. But right now, as long as I document in the files, they're going to accept that.
Okay.
And we make sure that you're complying with the rules of the grant when we're bidding the project out and stuff, so that you don't need to worry about. So as of now, it'll be okay.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
I don't.
No? Can I get a motion to accept the CDBG grant award letter?
So move.
I'll second it. I got a motion by Mitch, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Move down to 5E, approval of engineering contract for the CDBG project. Guess anybody else got any questions? Everybody read through it?
All of the numbers and information in the design and construction engineering contract, they're all exactly the same as was submitted in May as part of the grant application in terms of the construction estimates, design and engineering, and the other item on your bid, grant admin. The segments of streets are all the same that we presented prior to submission of the grant when we were talking about the project, in February, March, and April, and so forth. So.
I'm assuming the engineering costs on here, Russ, is pretty static, or is that subject to change based on actual bids that come in?
No, that's pretty much static in terms, and it's based off the estimated construction cost and so forth. We don't change our number if you get high bids or anything like that. It's a total lump sum contract.
Or if it comes in much lower, it's not a percentage of the actual contract then?
If the bids come in lower, what happens if the bids come in lower?
Then you'll have extra money to do something else with.
Okay.
But either way, we're still looking at $142,500 for engineering services.
Any other questions?
Are any of the alleys going to be worked on then too? Or?
They weren't included as part of the list of projects or the grant application, just to make sure you scored high. But we did, if you remember, we did talk about including some alleys if you have money budgeted in the project area. If we do bid it with the project, we talk about that too. We can bid items outside of the grant, but again, with CDBG, it's a federally funded project, so you have federal wage rates. So if you want to do some alleys, we could bid it as a separate contract, so you can avoid paying federal wage rates on those alley projects, or we could, bid it with the project. Just gets a little messier for Lynn.
So if the bids,
there are some options to include alleys in the area.
so if the bids do come in under, and you said that we got that extra money to do with what we want, maybe something to look at.
Definitely.
That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, when you have a contractor or other ones bidding in the area on a large project like this, right, that would be an option, a good idea to do your biggest bang for your buck with contractors working in the area to do a few more alleys, as part of the CDBG project at the same time.
And there's no penalty if the bids come in lower, the federal government's not going to come back in with anything with the grant.
Does the grant go down?
We could use that extra money for something and they're not.
You can't use the CDBG funds are stipulated specifically for this project, so we can't if there's excess funds at the end of it, we can't take those and move those to a different project. You're specifically approved for, they're specifically allotted for this project.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely come in at 500,000 plus.
Yep.
Right.
But
But if like if construction came in lower and you're saying that there's extra money left for construction, that money, that CDBG money could not be used for alleys. If there's extra money and you don't use it for CDBG, then that could be a separate project, but not those CDBG funds can't be used.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I mean, I get that.
Okay.
So yeah, as we're going through design, be like your other projects, we have public information meetings for all the residents or anyone in the township can come in and, we can talk at that point once we go through design if we want to add any alleyways or anything like that, so.
Anybody got questions? Can I get a motion for the approval of the engineering contract for the CDBG project?
So move.
Second.
I have a motion by Mitch and a second by Ralph. Any further discussion? I'll call a motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. We'll move down to 5F, approval for administrative service with Cedar Corp for the CDBG grant administration.
I'll turn this one over to Lynn. She's the expert in our office on the CDBG grant admin. And obviously with a federally funded project, there's a lot of paperwork and follow-up throughout the design process, and especially during the construction process. So that's what this contract covers it, so you don't need to worry about it and worry about missing something. And, at the end of the project, all of our stuff and the town stuff gets audited by the state to make sure we're in compliance with the federal and state requirements. So I'll let Lynn talk a little bit more about the contract. Her fun part of the job, dealing with the federal government.
So basically my part, the grant administration is I do all of the required paperwork for you. I do all of the reporting for the town. I do the environmental reports that are required before construction can even start on the project. And just make sure that all of the contractors and stuff are adhering to the rules and regulations of the program as well. I review all of their payroll reports that they submit each week, making sure that they're complying, paying their guys their correct rates, because it's the responsibility of the town, and I take care of that for you. I also, if I find discrepancies and stuff in that type of stuff, I also don't let the town issue payment to contractors either. So I take all of that off of you guys of having to monitor that stuff weekly. So the contract is for $24,500, and that will encompass everything from the start of all the paperwork through all the way through closure, covers the monitoring and stuff too. When the state monitors the files to make sure that you're complying with the program, we typically have them come to our office because that's where all the files are held. It would be the option for them to come here, and I could bring all the files down here as well. But typically we just do the monitorings there because everything's on the computers and stuff. So it's 24 in the original grant application. It's 25,000. Our contract's for 24.5. There's 500,000 built in. So when Chad or whoever from the town comes to implementation training, there's some cushion to cover that, so that can go towards match dollars for you guys. And then there's advertising and stuff, and that'll help cover some of those costs too, so that you can use those as match dollars and administrative costs. That's basically it for the grant admin.
I think when we talked too, we pretty much already approved this, right? This is more kind of a blanket.
Yes, and we have to have a signed contract for the state if they want to see one for the grant admin. So it's a formality.
Any questions?
Yeah.
No?
I'll move to approve it.
I guess I'll second that. Motion by Ralph, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call a motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Move down to 5G, review fire department recommendation on the replacement of fire engine 2. Chair. Well, we're moving forward on replacing the engine. And, Nate's probably got something for us to look at.
Yeah, I'll just pass out this handout here. So, here, Kelsey, if you don't mind passing these along. So, what you're looking at is a comparison between 9 different engines that came in as either a response to the quotes in our bid process, or 2 of them were also used as we've been encouraged to also look at the used equipment. And so what the truck committee did was they first validated that all the trucks met the initial specifications, which were about the pump size, tank size, capability, ability to fit in the station, things like that. And then we chose 14 different criteria, and you can see the criteria at the top of the list. And each of those criteria were weighted based on how they felt against each other. And then each truck was ranked. And the final recommendation that came out of the process was for the Rosenbauer FX rear mount panel. And we can provide the detailed specs if you have questions about what that looks like. It has a 1,000-gallon tank. All the trucks had a 1,500 gallon per minute or better pump, which would meet our ISO requirements for the community. Just some interesting things about what we learned in the process. The lead time in manufacturing is about a year. Some were a little more, some were a little less, but it was within a few months of a year depending on the manufacturer. There's a lot of concern about the tariffs right now and increasing pricing. And so they've told us that they're either already starting to see increases of between 10 to 15%, or they said things are crazy. They're seeing things that it's hard to predict where they're seeing cost increases, depending on the manufacturer. And each of the manufacturers offered to provide us with an immediate loaner engine to try to help us with the situation we're in. I should also mention that we filled up the tank on engine 2 and came back 3 days later, and the tank had already dropped 8 inches. The water's just leaking out on the floor. So we've been trying to do a rotation with different people filling it, trying to keep it full in case we need it, but it's difficult to keep up with that too. So looking at the different trucks, the Rosenbauer that is recommended was not the most expensive truck. It was the middle of the road truck. The total cost was under the $500,000 in the referendum. It was $488,300. And they said that they would, if we chose to pay up front for the truck, give us another cost reduction, and it would be $471,000.
That loaner that they would let you use, is there a fee for that?
Oh, so for 2 of the manufacturers, there would not be a fee. Custom Fire and Rosenbauer, but we would have to cover insurance on it and make any repairs if we break anything. And Pierce said that they would provide a loaner, but we would have to lease it during the time that we were using it. So there'd be an additional cost for that from Pierce.
Is Pierce truck more or cheaper?
It depended on the configuration. So the Puck Pumper 2 was $498,000, and some of the other configurations were less than that. But what we saw was that the quality was higher in the Rosenbauer. Some of the features that we wanted, the body type was better, more resilient, had a better foam system. The electrical system was better, and you can kind of see in some of the rankings as the things that came up to the top. More safety features. It was a rigid frame. The frame actually extended under the front bumper, where with the Pierce they'd attach the front bumper to the frame. So there were some things there that just made it a little bit more solid piece of equipment. And another thing that was an advantage for the Rosenbauer was that most of the parts for the body or the chassis are commercially available, so we could get those locally instead of having to send the truck to Appleton for service. We could have it serviced here if something happened.
So Rosenbauer is built here in Wisconsin?
No, they're built in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
A year though, wow.
What's that?
A year, that's a long time.
Yeah. It's an intensive process as they manufacture them. And the thing that I'll mention too, when we took a hard look at the used trucks that were out there, And there's a significant value decrease when you get more than 3 or 4 years old. We saw a lot of older trucks that were really beat up. And then the ones that we looked at were some of the newer ones. But for example, the 2014 Spartan ERV was $435,000 used. So there really wasn't a big cost advantage when you started to consider that the pump wasn't the pump that we would spec. The chassis was a different chassis than what we would spec. The electrical system wasn't as good. And so, you start putting those things together, the configuration of the compartments wouldn't be optimized for the way that we operate. They were optimized for another department. And so you start looking at those things and it really just didn't cost justify. So that's why it kind of fell out of the ranking.
Where is a Fenton Fire made?
So Fenton Fire is a used fire apparatus dealer. So they're kind of all over the place. I think they have an office in Florida. But they advertise things in all of the main fire publications. And their website is one of the, between them and there's one other used apparatus dealer that kind of does most of the used market.
So can you go through and give us the price of each one?
Sure. The Rosenbauer on top I mentioned was $488, $488,300. The FX side mounted panel was $491,601. The Custom Fire Metro Star was $496,000. The Pierce Enforcer Puck pumper was $423,136. The Enforcer Puck pumper 2 was $498,777. The Enforcer pumper was $485,304. The Sabre pumper was $369,951, and I should also mention that there were several things in the Sabre pumper that did not meet our spec. It's a stock truck. And so as the stock configuration, they just wanted to give us a comparison. So that one was one that it fell out of the ranking also. The 2017 Spartan Gladiator was $389,000, and the 2014 Spartan was $435,000.
That Pierce Sabre pumper for $369, was that something you still have to add? Because is that the basic truck, and then now you add what you need?
We would have to add a lot of things to it, and one of the key things it didn't have was a rear intake to draft from, pulling water from a portable tank.
Okay.
And in order to add that, you'd have to retrofit that onto a truck that was already built and was not engineered or designed for it, so you'd have to basically drill a hole through the chassis to get to the pump and plumb it in. And so it was a big effort that was very expensive. In addition to all the other equipment that we would have.
Yeah.
What did you say about that option you guys are wanting? What about 471?
So 471 was the price for the Rosenbauer rear mount panel if we paid up front. So they said, if you pay up front, we'll lower the price for you. But the other thing that I think the board should think about is once you pay, you lock in the price. Or once you sign a contract, but once you've paid and you have a contract, it's solid. And so with the tariff pricing and some of those things, there is some risk there. I would say depending on how long it takes to do that kind of stuff, if you want to really lock it in, that's the path to go.
And how does that work? You put 10% down to lock it in, or you have to put the whole, say if we went with the 488 to lock it down, but you didn't pay the whole thing, would it be like 10% down and you pay the rest of delivery?
It could be. I don't know what their recommended contract looks like, but usually there's room for some negotiation. So one of the things that we've done before when we've purchased trucks here is required some sort of like a performance payment. So we would say, we'll pay you this amount up front, this amount at 6 months, this amount when it's delivered. But the thing at delivery is held back in case there's something wrong or doesn't work or whatever, and then we make the final payment once we know that we have it and everything's as promised.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you just cover that with contractual language.
Chad and I were talking about how we could pay it anyway. Would we up front this year, or would we just pay the whole thing next year, but a percentage down?
Yeah, I guess a lot of it's gonna depend on whether or not we pay full down cash on delivery or if we need to put some money down.
Yeah.
I mean,
If we put so much down this year, and then, so we wouldn't have to take out the loan until next year.
right, you know, I mean, if we were able to pay for it all cash on delivery, we wouldn't have to worry about the loan and, the levy limit in 2019. We could do the loan next year, full cash on delivery, and that would give us that extra, because we're already talking about the CDBG stuff and quite possibly a new, police cruiser, so, you know, if there's any way to make the order this year, so it gets going, and then we pay next year. But if we have to do some cash down too, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would expect that you'll have to pay something now.
Something.
Right.
We just don't know how much, huh?
I should also mention that Rosenbauer is also general, and Engine 1 is a general. So we've purchased trucks from them before.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an idea of their quality, their reputation. They've been around for a long time.
I mean, from a financial standpoint, from the scope of things, I mean, we could do some money down out of the reserve, and even if we did the loan next year to replenish that reserve, we definitely can.
Right.
We just have to be very careful because we do have the CDBG stuff we got to worry about and,
Right.
and that kind of stuff. I don't know if we want to drain too much of the reserves at this point, but I guess that's up to you as a board to determine what's adequate to put down this year, or if any, or if we wait for full payment on delivery next year.
You recommend? Just putting just the whole thing down right away? How much time do we have before you think?
Usually it's, the quotes are 90 days from when they give them to us.
Okay.
We've had all these for some time as we've been working on it. So
Okay.
I would say, our time is limited.
Okay.
As far as, I don't feel that it's appropriate for me to recommend, the way that the town board should finance that. I think that's a board decision.
Okay.
The less expensive option is if you pay up front, and it does provide that advantage of kind of locking in.
Right.
But you might be able to do some things with the language so you're protected against the impacts from the tariffs, and you can lock in on a price. The 488.3 is the without the pay anything up front discount. And there were other discounts that were applied just based on, we made them sharpen their pencils. They knew that they were in a competitive bid. They knew what our referendum was. That's all public information. So,
Do you think 35% down this year would be adequate for them to lock in a price? Or?
I can't speak for them, but I think that would be not uncommon for a fire apparatus contract.
Because and my thought process on that, I mean, we were already anticipating taking cash from the reserve anyways.
Right.
So if we did $150,000 down, we're at 35%, and then we do the loan for the rest at delivery next year, and we're not hitting the taxes this year.
The reason Chad talked to me about not doing that 20-year loan is because, Engine 1 right now is already 20 years old. We can't wait 20 more years to replace that one.
Right.
Yeah, I'd hate to handcuff us on 2 fire engine payments for too long. I think we can handle a $350,000 loan over the course of 5 years and get it done. So that way, if we need to replace something again, we can do that. But that's my recommendation. Again, obviously, you guys get to make that final say. So.
Oh, yeah. So another option that some have used and was mentioned in our committee is that we could pay for the chassis up front. And if we pay for the chassis up front, it potentially could lower the cost about $9,000. So we would get a benefit from that, but the chassis price is $235,805.
Chassis was how much?
$235,805. Because the way that they build them is they build the chassis and then they build their body on top, and they kind of brand each one of them.
Uh-huh.
So it's the Commander chassis with the Rosenbauer body. The body itself was $252,495. So basically, you're covering almost half of the cost right away for a discount.
What was the discount on
They said, should we choose to pay for the chassis portion upon its completion, deduct $9,050. So that's at completion of the chassis, but if we paid up front, that would be prior to completion.
That chassis would probably be built this year, though. That's usually how they build a fire engine, isn't it? You order the chassis, then all the extras, the pumps, the tank, that's what costs all the money.
Yeah, the customization, so in a truck like this, the Commander chassis is a chassis that's specified as a fire truck chassis, and so they start there. And then they customize the body to meet the department's needs. So the compartment configuration, number of seats, special sizes of compartments, the hose layout. Just depends on your ISO rating, what you need the truck for, and how it fits into your tactics.
That would have 5 or 6 sheets.
As we were looking at it, it was 6.
6.
It actually could have up to 10.
Oh.
But we would just, because of the way we're configured, we'd have an EMS cabinet in place of a couple seats.
Okay. Give us a little time to think it over, and we'll see if we need to call a special meeting so we can get this done. Which way you want to go? Anybody? Mitch, you got anything else you want?
No, I would just like you guys to get back to us as quick as possible on how much we do need to put down, so that we have an idea.
So we'll contact the team that we've been working with and just say we need some options, and I'll talk about some of the things we discussed here in terms of give us a percentage.
Yeah.
What does it look like, and then we'll bring that forward.
Okay.
We kind of like to do the loan next year instead of this year, so it won't be a big hit on the tax bill. So,
Well, the manufacturers, they'd like to make their bottom line look good this year.
Yeah,
so
right.
We'll see what they'll offer us.
Yeah. See what we can do. Ralph? Yeah.
I don't think that covers it.
Kelsey? So
Is there one or the other that you're recommending that they, give them a direction on which one?
I would say the one that got the most points anyway, the Rosenbauer. Probably at 488, but like you said, if we paid for the chassis, you'd get it for 479. See, make a motion, we'll carry it over and we'll see if we can get it done yet.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
Or any recommendation? Ralph?
So you're going to check on what kind of down payment they need if we don't go this route.
Yeah.
We're actually going to have a committee member try calling right now just to see if they have any recommendation for us to make things a little easier.
Okay.
I mean, I guess my thoughts are we definitely should put something down to lock in the price, whether that's the minimal that they give us. It'd obviously be nice to buy the chassis and save $90,000, but we got to come up with $235,000 to do that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, from the budgetary standpoint, again, I think it's safe to say that we have at least 150 that we could throw down this year.
yeah.
I mean, that's what was put aside in the past few years for the fire engine. I think it's only fair that, we do that. And if that's acceptable to the manufacturer, that would be great for us. If they need more, then obviously you guys would have to discuss if we're going
need
to.
more and it's going to be close to the chassis price.
Yeah.
Then
I mean, again, it's one of those things, like I said, I mean, we can still use the reserve money to come up with the chassis price and make up for it next year, if we need to, from a loan. But, those are options. But I personally, I like the idea if we can lock in a savings by putting some money down, obviously that's savings. And it gets the ball rolling for them.
Are there any issues with us insuring the loaner or any of that? Is that okay?
I don't know if it would cost a whole lot more from an insurance premium to put one more vehicle on there.
I don't think so.
I don't think it would be an issue. Would they take the other one off our hands for us, or what do we need to do with it? Yeah.
We can ask.
Yeah, you look at the new fire truck websites and the one that we have in there, there's hundreds of them.
Thought I'd ask. A lot of metal there still.
At 488, it's 162 for third.
Okay.
If you're interested in seeing what it looks like, there are some line drawings here I can pass around. That's interesting for you.
Should we wait for Mike to get back, or should we?
Yeah, we can wait for
Wait a minute.
so you can get through.
But like 100 at 488, it's 162. So if they would take a third, just to get the ball rolling. What colors are going to be?
The new fleet color is the same as
Good.
Tender 2.
Move
Black
to
and
the next one.
Does that come with the vinyl then and everything on it, or do we still have to do that?
It would come with the lettering. We still would have to put loose equipment on it. So we would transfer the loose equipment that we do have, and then we'd have to look and see what else we need to equip it.
If you want, we could move this to the next item and come back to it if you want to keep moving.
Yeah. Do we need a motion for that?
Yeah.
Can I get a motion to move it on and then we can come back to it?
So moved.
I'll second that. I got a motion by Ralph, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call a motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Let's move down to 5H, approval of resolution 2018-8 regarding town transportation aid. I got a letter here, Chad, it's from the Wisconsin Towns Association, isn't it?
Yes.
And they're asking for our approval anyway. Because pretty much everybody's got the same issue we do. 90% of their roads are pretty tough shape. So, you want to add anything then?
Just something that the town I don't know if a lot of you remember a couple of years ago, we did a resolution similar to this to try and lobby to Madison for additional transportation aids since those dollar amounts have been dwindling over the past few years. So Towns Association, again, is going back in mid-September, I believe, to try and lobby again for continued, to get more levels of support for transportation. So they've asked all the towns again to have a resolution that supports higher transportation aids. To me, the only non-benefit of that is obviously just like any budget, the state also has a budget that they have to adhere to. So if they give more transportation aids, I don't know where those extra funds come from. So something obviously has to give, but obviously transportation has been a big topic of discussion the last couple of years for all towns and municipalities, to include cities and stuff. So I guess this resolution is just something that they would like to see so they can bring that to legislators in Madison in September here to try and fight for more roads funding.
Can I get a motion to accept the approval of the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that. I got a motion by Ralph, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Let's move down to 5I. Place an order for purchase of 2019 squad vehicle to be included in the 2019 budget. Drew? Okay.
I just know I'm glad It's a lot cheaper.
I don't have any options. Looking to replace the 2010 Chevy Impala. It's got over 100,000 miles on it. We just stuck another $500 into it. I'm holding it together with duct tape and WD-40 at this point. So it's definitely got a money's worth out of this. It's going to be 9 years old here, which is well beyond the window for a patrol car. We do have a short window to order a 2019 Ford Explorer. Ford, in their infinite wisdom, has decided to change the configuration of the Explorer for 2020, which means that nothing that we have in our current Explorers are going to fit after 2020. But if we get an order in before the middle of September, we can get a 19, which is configured exactly the same way. Although we're replacing the Impala, when we got the Impala redone 3 years ago, most of the equipment, including the cage and some of the other equipment they put in, is can be transferred into the new squad. We also will be able to transfer, for example, our radar unit, our camera. Our squad camera can be transferred. That's all fairly new. So I guess I'm just asking for permission. It would be a situation where we place the order. That way we'd be guaranteed a 2019. The 2020s are also going up $8,000 as well. So
You can just build a chassis and put a car on top.
what we're thinking. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that was an issue. Anyway, long story short, me and Chad have discussed it. I'm asking the board to approve the loan will be taken out until next year. We can place the order. We don't have to pay until we take delivery of the vehicle, and that should be sometime in January or February of 19. I'm asking for $50,000. The price of the squad car is about $28,000. But then we have, if you look at, we do have to replace the computer. And if you look at just the cost of installing everything, they basically retrofitting the whole interior of the squad car. It's a completely, it's not like the Ford Explorer or Dow Ford. It's completely, everything's retrofitted in there. You're looking at probably another $10,000 just to get that done between the parts of the labor. Take the loan for $50,000. If we don't use it, then you don't use it, but that at least covers everything. I went through and I printed everything off. I came with between $47,000 and $49,000 what I need to cover. Cover everything, including even decal in the car and everything. I mean, that would be real ready to go. So.
Drew, it says here on the bottom of the second page, Ford Police Interceptor Utility 27569, and it says number.
Is that from the 17th period?
That would be
the last one we ordered.
Could be where it is on the 2018. Okay, yeah, because I was looking at here and it says 28806.
28806, yeah. That's the price of the squad.
Okay. But do they need money down on it to order it? No.
Not a penny.
No.
Not a penny. They take. We pay upon delivery of the vehicle. It's a matter of getting the order in. Because after September 15th, they're no longer taking orders for the 19. Then you've got to order the 2020, which is $8,000 more. We won't take delivery of that until probably September or October of 2019. And it's going to be a totally different vehicle.
It's going to be smaller?
I say totally different. It's going to look, if you want to see what it's going to look like, Google the 2020 Lincoln Aviator. That's essentially what it's going to look like. It's going to be the Explorer, the Ford version of the Lincoln Aviator. It's going to be a little bit, it's going to be
a little bigger. Oh, okay.
It's not going to be a significant difference, but just different enough so that everybody has to buy new equipment, which is pretty common in the industry. Every couple of years they change them up, and all the places that make all the cages and the seats and all of the stuff for them have to redo it, and everybody makes money. So if we get it in now, then we wouldn't be looking at a new squad car probably for another 3 years, because then my fleet would be pretty good shape. The 14 right now is our K9 vehicle. That would be the next one we would replace. But knock on wood, that one so far is in great shape, and then we've got the 17, which is obviously in great shape as well. So.
So virtually what he's asking for is kind of like what we did with the 17 before, is place the order, knowing that it's coming. We would be able to include that through tax levy, make one payment instead of doing a payment plan on the vehicle again. Reason we brought it again in front of you was to get, if we're going to do this, if you approve getting a new vehicle for next year, so we can get the order in, so we can get that same body style that we have, and make sure that the board is all on board, that when it does come time to budget time, that we're going to have that loan next year that we can take out for and pay.
So it won't be on the tax bill for this, the one they're getting in December.
We wouldn't necessarily have to do it, no. I mean, because again, the payment wouldn't be due until next year. So again, kind of like what we're talking about with the fire engine, is that we could potentially take both loans out next year for whatever would be remaining on the fire engine and the squad, since they're not taking money down on delivery this year. But that way, again, it gets them their new vehicle. When would that take delivery, Drew?
I'm sorry, say that again?
When would delivery be on that?
You know, they're saying January, February, we didn't take delivery at the 17th till April. It could be as late as April. And the other problem is everybody and their friggin' uncle trying to get these 19s ordered because, you know, they don't want to have to pay the extra. Because when you start budgeting for a fleet of 10 or 12 cars and all of a sudden you have to add $8,000 to the car, that's rough.
More than 8,000, because you got all new equipment.
I'm hoping it would be sooner than later, but we didn't take delivery the 17th until almost April of 17.
Yeah.
So it could be spring of 19 is when we'll take delivery. We're a one horse show here, so they're gonna fill the large orders first. So we'll get ours when they get one. We do order the silver though, the gray, rather than black. That helps us a little bit because those are in a lot more demand. Blacks are the ones that are the most popular.
I make a motion that we approve the purchase of the squad car before September 15th. That will not only save us $8,000 going forward, it also saves us the purchase of new equipment for the vehicle too, because the current stuff won't fit. So
I'll second that.
I got a motion by Mitch and a second by Ralph. Any further discussion?
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
As far as financing goes, what is the board's recommendation on that? Do a loan yet this year for it, or wait till next year?
I would say next year, so it's not such a big hit on the property tax bill this year.
Okay.
Kelsey?
Want to ease the pain a little bit of next year's tax bill? I mean, because I'm going to take quite a bit on there next year. I mean,
Well, we can talk about that at budget time, you know?
no, we need a
You
decision.
mean now?
Yeah.
Okay. You wanna,
Can you give us a rough estimate?
I mean,
Based on
really, in all honesty, if we're looking at taking out a loan for the fire truck next year for tax first payment in 2020, you're almost better to do the loan this year so it hits in 19 and then it's done. That way they're not overlapping that 1 year in 2020.
because we also have the grant money too.
Correct. I mean, that's going to be, I mean, that's regardless.
Well, right.
Yeah.
you know, we did the fire engine, the police engine, and the grant all this year.
But it doesn't sound like we're going to need to do the fire engine this year.
Yeah.
You know. But if we do both the fire engine and the squad next year, then they're not going to overlap. So you're almost better off to. Okay.
If I could.
Yeah.
In the conversation that our committee member had, if it helps this decision, they said that the chassis payment would be due when the chassis is completed, which would likely be January next year. So you wouldn't have to make that initial payment if we pay for the chassis down until then. We could sign the contract with nothing down commit to make that payment when the chassis is complete. So that means the cost will go to next year if that helps.
Okay.
That'd be good.
So then for tax purposes, it would be advantageous for us to do the loan this year for the squad, hit it like we did for the 2014, and then we don't have to worry about payment on that in 2020. And then they're not overlapping. So I could present to the board in a September meeting, or even at latest at our October meeting, the resolution for the loan for the squad.
Yeah, I think we should do it that way.
Makes sense.
Make sense?
Can you give me an estimate on the road?
I can give you a rough idea. I won't have all the numbers
Okay.
put together, but
Should
I
they
think
have Mitch
last time it was
redo
like
that?
18 bucks.
it wasn't that much. Yeah.
Should have Mitch redo that motion then?
No, I mean, that's,
Okay.
Motion to approve him to go ahead and order the squad car, then we'll work out the finances for that this year.
yeah, I guess because it's already included in here that for the 2019 budget, so.
You second that, Ralph? Yeah. I got a second by Ralph. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Let's move back to the review fire department recommendation on replacement of fire engine 2. After listening to Nate here, where we wouldn't have to, if we went to go ahead, give you guys the go ahead to order it, and then we'd have to pay for the chassis probably in January.
In January.
Okay.
They said when the chassis is complete, but they said it wouldn't be complete until January.
Okay. And that would work, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we definitely can do that.
All right.
So does that lock us in at the 471 then?
It gets you to the $9,000 discount, so it'd be $479, $300. And if you, the full 17 discount that would get you to $471 would be if we paid for the entire thing up front.
It's a long ways away. I'll have to remember that we'll have to present the resolution again. Probably want to discuss it maybe December, bring it back to December to find out how much of a loan we're taking. But yeah.
Okay. Any questions, Mitch?
Nope, I don't have it.
Ralph?
I think we're deciding if we're gonna go ahead and purchase this chassis, right? And order the truck now and purchase pay for the chassis in January.
Approval to sign the contract for the truck build.
Correct.
The milestone payments, the chassis, and then completion of the truck.
Yeah.
So it sounds like just authorize Chief Melby to fiduciate the contract for that particular one with payment to be made at time of chassis completion or whatever it is.
Correct. Kelsey, any questions? No? Can I get a motion then?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Ralph, second by Mitch. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Vote say no. Motion carries. We're ordering a new fire.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Can I get a motion to go into public comment?
So moved.
I'll second that. Motion by Mitch, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. We are in public comment. Go ahead.
Schumacher was 445 years ago. That chassis you're talking about, one of those the front frame didn't go all the way underneath the front.
Right.
Does it going to have towing to the frame? Towing hooks in front so it can be towed?
I imagine the towing
Well,
hooks
you
are,
imagine.
yeah, they're probably on the frame, I'm sure.
No, the frame don't come out to the front.
This one does.
This one
This one
does.
does?
This one does.
That wasn't explained.
The cheaper one, the other Rosenbauer did not. The frame did not come out.
You gotta have the frame, you gotta have
Yeah.
towing hooks on it.
Yeah. The one that they've spec'd out that we just approved
That-
does have the frame that has the towing hooks on it.
Full frame all the way.
Yeah.
Full frame.
Yeah.
That's it, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Dale Wetterly,
Yeah.
2700 Del Rey Avenue. And I want to get back to Lake Del Rey again. kind of a red flag is going up with all the expenses of all these other things that are happening, and we've been doing this for many years trying to get a move on this, and I hear there's gonna be something coming up this next month, but I would like to have a meeting before that and discuss with the committee, with the group.
Sure. We can do that.
Okay.
That same group we got together in July, kind of?
Yeah, because we've tried 3 times now with engineers and stuff, and none of them have worked.
Yep.
So cheaper ways
I
sometimes
would rather
not
get us all
gonna
get
be,
together, that'd be great.
yeah,
But,
cheaper ways sometimes don't work.
we can, I can contact you guys, or if you want to contact me,
Give us
anytime
a
in
call,
the next-
give Debbie a call, and
Okay.
she can contact
Yeah,
the
let's do
neighbors.
that. I think the more we get together and talk about it, the better. So, we can wait a couple weeks or whatever, and then I'll get hold of you, Debbie, and we can settle something up.
Yeah, because all this spending money with all this other stuff, and this came way before any of this stuff.
Yep.
And here we sit and still nothing.
Yeah. No, let's do that. I agree.
Okay.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Jeff Bellamy, 1503 Caroline Street. Last meeting, I brought up about the fireworks, and that I said that they should charge $300 to $400 for a permit. And this was supposed to be put in the agenda for this meeting, and it was not. And it was motioned by Wolpert and Thorne to do that. Somebody isn't doing their job. And therefore, yeah, we might have almost a year, but to give you people time to sit up there and look stupid by not doing what you're supposed to do, putting that in the agenda so that it can get acted on. Now, there are people that probably think, did they act on the fireworks? No. I think if you do the right thing, let's get it done. Charge $300 to $400 for their fire permits for the work so that we can control it a little bit. Help our police department out as well. They gotta be going nuts because you don't do something like this. What are other townships doing? Do the same thing. There are people that have to sit and listen to that, pick the stuff up in their yard, plus shooting them into the parks and stuff like that, going into other yards on top of roofs. What about the town equipment? Wasn't the shed up here plastered with them? Also cars? I think something's wrong. Let's do it. Not today, not tomorrow, sooner than later. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Anybody else? Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, I see we got a county rep here, and with this grant money coming for this street projects south of Goddard Street, I think we need some help probably from her with the county to clean out these catch basins that drain into Catgut Slough, because they've got roots in them or they're collapsed or something, and maybe she could talk to Mr. Chamberlain and get that done so it'll help out with this project next year. And between now and next year, we should be able to get something done there.
Yeah.
Because if it ain't done, the stuff that we're gonna do down there probably ain't gonna work like it should.
Yeah. You heard that,
Checking
right?
that, Margaret?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce. Anybody else? Go ahead, Lee.
Kevin Candle, Delray. I'm just wondering if we're gonna hold the contractor, you guys approved this new project up here. It's the same contractor we had for the last project that got, well, in my opinion, not done very well. With a lack of supervision on the contractors. Are they gonna be held accountable this time for the mistakes that are made and paid for them? I don't know, they need to have more supervision on it. We're gonna be paying them that amount of money. They really need to be overseeing the project a little better, I think.
Yeah.
It's an awful lot of money that was spent on that last project, and there was an awful lot of stuff that, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of other people's opinion too, that wasn't done right and caused damage to personal property. So, is there gonna be somebody that's gonna hold them accountable this time and oversee them, which I don't think we should have to do, they should be doing it themselves.
Right. Thanks, Ken.
Yep.
Go ahead, Lee.
Just to clarify, we didn't win the lottery, right? The town didn't win the lottery. It sounds like we're spending money like we just won the lottery.
You did.
I'm going on Mr. Wetterling's comments over here about having this problem from Lake Del Rey that we've had for over a year, and we still haven't had any movement on it. If that's the case, we've had a year on it, nothing's been done, then we obviously need to vote out people who aren't doing their job.
Anything
That's
else?
it. That's it.
Anybody else? All right. Can I get a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
I'll second that. Motion by Mitch, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Can I get a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mitch, second by Ralph. Any further discussion? Call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. On a roll call. Supervisor Craig. Supervisor Thorne.
Yes.
Chairman Shelley.
Yes.
Supervisor Brewer. Nice job.
Motion carries. We are back in open session.
Trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat. Put that on the cord.
It is.
We only give
Check
It's
our-
recorded.
Turn it on.
Yeah, right on.
I'll take your minutes.
Trick or treat. I'll probably forget that part.
Move down to 8A, possible action on items discussed in closed session. You wanna?
I make a motion to tender a job offer to Jordan Schaller within our pay scale. If he does not accept that job, then I motion that we offer the police officer job to Shelby. Palmer. In the event that Jordan turns the job down.
I'll second that.
Should we make it known that the Schaller is not related to Terry?
I would hope not. We had too much nepotism in this town years before.
Correct? You were looked into that.
Yeah, I looked into it.
Sure it's not your fourth cousin?
Well, my uncle's telling me no. I have a motion by Mitch, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And the thing with Steve, we don't.
No action on that
No
one.
action taken. Okay.
I motion to adjourn meeting.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion by Kelsey, second by Ralph. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. That concludes our business.
Awesome sauce.